You don't wake up one day and decide to become a Forex trader, unless life has already shoved you into a corner. That was exactly what happened to Emiko Sato. She was never meant to be here, not in this world of charts and candlesticks, of leverage and stop losses, of lonely nights spent second-guessing every click. She didn't grow up studying Wall Street, didn't major in finance, didn't idolize hedge fund managers. She was a language teacher, a gentle, soft-spoken woman who taught English to high school students in Tokyo and made origami with her kids on weekends. But life has its own twisted sense of humor. The day everything changed began like any other. Cold winter air sneaking in through the edges of their apartment windows, the morning news humming softly from the kitchen, her husband Takashi already dressed in his accountant's suit, sipping miso soup and tapping away at his calculator. He was always calculating something: budgets, bills, school fees, retirement, future. And then he wasn't. They said it was a massive stroke, sudden, fatal. No warnings, no symptoms, no time to say goodbye. Just silence, then sirens, then a casket. Emiko didn't cry at the funeral, not because she didn't want to. She couldn't. Her body was in shock. Her heart refused to process what had just happened. The man who handled everything, the one who knew where all the passwords were, who paid all the bills, who made sure the kids had money for school supplies, was gone. And she was left to pick up the pieces. At 39, Emiko became a widow with 2 children and a part-time income that barely covered rice and rent. The life insurance payout? It covered the funeral, the hospital bills, and gave her 3 months of breathing room. No more. She started cutting everything: subscriptions, meat from the grocery list, weekend outings with the kids. They sold their secondhand car, stopped eating out, and gave up on plans to move into a slightly larger apartment next year. But even with all that, the math didn't add up. It never did. She applied for more teaching hours, took freelance translation gigs, graded papers late into the night. But Tokyo is unforgiving, especially to single mothers with no time, no connections, and no safety net. One evening, after putting the kids to sleep, Emiko sat on the edge of her futon, staring at her bank app. It showed 27,146 yen, about $190. And that's when it hit her. She wasn't surviving. She was drowning, slowly, politely, invisibly. The next day, she searched online for remote work. Anything that could help her make extra income from home. She clicked through job boards, surveys, tutoring platforms, and then, by pure accident, stumbled on a video. The thumbnail read, "How I Make $200 a Day Trading Forex from My Bedroom." At first, she rolled her eyes. Another scam, she thought. But curiosity crept in. She clicked. A man sat in front of multiple monitors, speaking confidently about buying EUR/USD and closing the trade for a $180 profit in under an hour. He clicked, he explained, he smiled. The video ended with him sipping coffee and promising a free PDF guide. Emiko wasn't sold, but she wasn't in a position to ignore possibilities either. Over the next week, she watched more videos, listened to stories, read beginner articles, downloaded a trading app, and opened a demo account. And just like that, the seed was planted. Trading became her secret late-night affair. After the kids went to bed, she'd sit in the silence, open her laptop, and stare at the charts. Lines moving up and down, green, red, green again. It felt random, chaotic, mesmerizing. She lost trades, then she won a few, then she lost again. But every night she returned. Not because she was making money, she wasn't, but because for the first time since her husband died, she felt something that wasn't despair. She felt challenge. The following month, she deposited $500 into a live account. It was money meant for food, but she justified it to herself as an investment. She promised she'd stop at $500. She didn't. By the end of the year, she had deposited and lost $5,000. Her savings, gone. Why did she keep going? She couldn't answer that fully. Not yet. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was denial. Maybe it was the hope that if she could just win once, really win, she could pull herself and her kids out of this spiral. But she had no system, no structure, no mentor, just YouTube videos, Telegram signals, and pure desperation. One night, after a particularly ugly loss on GBP/JPY, she broke down. Sitting in the dark, face in her hands, shoulders shaking, she whispered through gritted teeth, "I am so tired of failing." That was the night something cracked inside her. Not in a destructive way, but in the way that sometimes something has to break so something better can be rebuilt.
There's a strange silence that fills the room after a breakdown, the kind that comes after all the tears have dried and your mind has nothing left to shout about. Emiko sat in that silence for a long time. The charts on her laptop were still open, flickering, taunting. She closed it gently. That night, for the first time in months, she didn't touch the markets. She just went to bed. No revenge trades, no hunting for the next big setup, no watching the London Open at 3 a.m. with red eyes and shaky hands. And when she woke up the next morning, something had shifted. The next few days, Emiko didn't trade. She didn't even open MetaTrader. Instead, she opened a notebook. And in that blank notebook, she wrote down every mistake she had made in the past year, every dumb trade, every emotional entry. Every time she added to a losing position, ignored her stop loss, or jumped into a random signal she didn't understand. It was an ugly list, but it was hers. She wasn't proud of it, but for the first time she was honest with herself. She wasn't trading, she was gambling, with 2 children under her care. She needed help. It came in the most unexpected form. During a free online webinar for beginner traders, hosted by a small Japanese Forex forum, she asked a simple question in the live chat. How do I know when to stop entering trades? Most people ignored it, but one participant, whose username was just oldman_T, replied privately. That question tells me you've been hurt. Message me. His real name was Takashi Nakamura, a 64-year-old former prop trader who had spent over 3 decades trading currencies for institutions in Tokyo and Singapore. Now retired, he occasionally mentored struggling traders, not for money, but out of a quiet sense of duty. Their first call lasted 5 hours. It began with silence, then small talk, then a flood of confessions from Emiko. Everything she'd done wrong, everything she'd lost, and everything she didn't understand. She braced for judgment, for condescension. It never came. Instead, Nakamura spoke calmly. You're not broken, you're just undisciplined. The market doesn't punish beginners. It punishes stubbornness. Over the next few weeks, he sent her reading material. Not fancy ebooks or complex systems, just charts. Naked charts, daily candles with a few lines drawn across them. No MACD, no RSI, no Fibonacci spirals, just price. At first, she didn't get it, but Nakamura was patient. He asked her to focus only on 4 levels. The previous day's high, the previous day's low, the current week's high, the current week's low. Nothing else. He told her, the market is like water. It tests the edges. These are the edges. Watch what price does when it touches these lines. That's all you need. She thought he was oversimplifying. He wasn't. Every day, Emiko would open her charts and draw those 4 lines. She'd wait, sometimes for hours, sometimes for nothing. She'd watch how price behaved when it approached the previous day's low. Did it bounce? Did it break and retest? Did it stall? And slowly, a pattern began to emerge, not just on the charts, but in her mind. She wasn't chasing anymore. She was observing. She wasn't hoping. She was watching. She began logging everything, every reaction at her lines, every false breakout, every rejection wick. She didn't place trades for nearly a month. Nakamura told her, "Before you can execute, you must learn to observe, like a sniper. One shot. That's it." The first trade she took under Nakamura's guidance was laughably small, a short position on Euro USD near the previous day's high. Her risk was $10. Her potential gain was $20. It took 2 hours to hit her take profit. She made $20 and felt nothing. No rush, no victory, just process. And Nakamura smiled when she told him that. "Good, you are starting to get it." Over the next few months, she stuck to the plan. 4 lines, no indicators, 2 trades a day max, always 1 to 2 risk reward, never trade during news, never trade sideways chop, only clear rejections or confirmed breaks. It was boring, but boredom became her edge. Gone were the sleepless nights and impulsive revenge trades. Gone was the need to make it all back today. She started treating her charts like a job. Sit down, assess the landscape, wait for a setup, execute, or walk away. Her win rate hovered around 55%. But because her losses were always capped and her winners were twice as large, her account grew slowly, predictably, peacefully. She was still trading from her tiny apartment, still working her teaching job during the day, still making onigiri for her children and helping them with homework. But something in her posture changed. She wasn't a widow desperately chasing hope and flashing candles. She was a trader. And she was surviving.
It wasn't a movie montage. The climb didn't come with uplifting music or a lightning bolt of overnight success. It was slow, monotonous, repetitive. Emiko's routine became sacred. She'd wake at 5:30 a.m. before her children stirred, brew green tea, sit in silence, open her laptop, draw the same 4 lines. Yesterday's high, yesterday's low, this week's high, this week's low. Nothing else. She didn't read the news anymore, didn't chase the economic calendar, no fear over what Powell said, no obsession over non-farm payrolls, just the lines, just the behavior. Sometimes she'd go an entire day without a single trade. She didn't mind. To her, waiting was trading. By mid-2020, her $2,000 account had grown to $4,500. Nothing glamorous, but to Emiko, it was everything. Not because of the money, but because of the control. The chaos was shrinking. Her emotions weren't driving the ship anymore. Nakamura, always watching from a quiet distance, finally sent her this message. "Now you're ready for scale." She didn't understand what he meant until a week later, when a friend of her late husband, a quiet entrepreneur who ran a chain of language schools, called her out of the blue. He'd heard about her progress through whispers in their old social circle. He didn't ask for numbers. He didn't want proof. He simply said, "I've watched you survive. That's more convincing than any profit statement. Would you trade a $25,000 account for me?" Emiko froze. Her heart raced. She wasn't sure if she was ready, but Nakamura encouraged her. "This is not pressure. This is a compliment. Just trade his account like you trade your own. No faster, no fancier." So she did. She treated the $25,000 as if it were her last chance on earth. Same system, same rules, same 4 lines. And in 6 months, she grew it to $38,000. Nothing explosive, but safe, steady. Her friend was thrilled. He doubled the capital. Emiko said nothing. No
bragging, no announcement, no motivational quotes on social media, just more lines. By early 2021, her own account had crossed $10,000. With the funded account growing as well, her monthly withdrawals from profit splits began matching her teaching income. And that was the moment it hit her. I don't have to teach anymore. She cried. Not because she hated teaching, she loved her students, but because she finally saw the end of the tunnel that began with her husband's death and wound through years of desperation, confusion, and failure. She resigned with grace. No drama, no tears at work, just a quiet farewell and a grateful heart. And then she did something unexpected. She cut her trading down to just 3 days a week. It shocked Nakamura. Why? He asked. Her answer was simple. Because my edge is discipline, and nothing kills discipline faster than fatigue. She was right. Emiko's weekly schedule became minimalist. Monday, analysis only, no trades. Tuesday through Thursday, execution days. Friday, rest, review, reset. Weekends were for her kids, no exceptions. The change was instant. Her accuracy improved, her focus sharpened, her profits grew more consistent. In September 2021, she took a rare trade on GBP-JPY that changed everything. A textbook rejection at the previous week's low. High volatility, clean structure, perfect setup. She risked $200, she made $950 in 45 minutes. It wasn't the amount that mattered, it was the clarity. This system, it works, she whispered aloud. She started logging screenshots of every trade. Not for social media, but for herself, to see her own discipline at work, to study her past like a scientist reviews lab notes. She had no followers, no community, no online brand. Just a spreadsheet, a journal, and 4 lines. And then came the knock at her door, both literal and figurative. The knock on the door came at 8:12 on a rainy Tuesday morning. Emiko opened it to find a woman in a navy blue blazer holding a slim briefcase and a calm, practiced smile. Her name was Yui Tanaka, a representative from a boutique venture firm specializing in funding high-discipline individual traders in Asia. They had heard of Emiko from the same investor she'd been quietly trading for. Apparently, word had traveled, not of her profits, but of her consistency. Yui placed a neatly folded proposal on the table. We fund traders who understand boredom. We're not interested in YouTubers, influencers, or adrenaline junkies. We're interested in people who trade like monks. Emiko listened without speaking. The deal was simple: a $500,000 funded account on a 70-30 profit split. No time pressure, no targets. Just performance based on risk adherence and consistency. She didn't sign right away. Instead, she asked one question: why me? Yui paused, then said, because you're the only trader we've seen who didn't try to sell anything while growing. You stayed quiet. That means you're trading for survival, not for applause. That night, Emiko sat in front of her trading laptop, the glow of her 4 lines reflecting on her glasses. She thought of how far she'd come, from staring at charts in tears while her children slept in the next room, to being offered $500,000 in trading capital. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt responsible. And so she agreed, cautiously, gratefully. By December 2021, she was managing 3 accounts: her personal $12,000 account, the $50,000 investor account, and now a $500,000 professional fund. All 3 used the same system, same 4 lines, same 2 trade per day limit, same 1-to-2 risk-reward ratio. She didn't change a thing. That was her power. She never confused scale with the need for complexity. In January 2022, Emiko's trading entered what Nakamura would later call the cold flame phase.
She was calm, unshakable, fully mechanical. She journaled emotions, not outcomes. If she lost, she reviewed her behavior, not the chart. If she won, she moved on in silence, no excitement, no dopamine celebration. In a journal entry from February 3, 2022, she wrote, "Trading used to feel like a battle. Now it feels like sweeping the floor. The task is routine, but when done every day, the house stays clean." Her stats reflected that mindset. 56% win rate, 1 to 2 average risk-reward, 90% adherence to her trade rules, less than 3% drawdown per month. And more importantly, she started paying herself. Every month, she withdrew 20% of her profits, no matter how small. Sometimes it was $400, sometimes $2,000. But each time she used it for something meaningful. New clothes for her children, a better laptop, finally replacing the rice cooker her husband bought 10 years ago. These were her trophies. By June 2022, her total profits from all 3 accounts crossed $100,000. Still no social media presence, no online course, no interviews, not even a trading nickname, just Emiko-san. But then Nakamura made a rare request. "I want you to teach," he said. Emiko was stunned. She refused at first. She wasn't a guru, she wasn't a marketer, and she didn't want attention. But Nakamura clarified, "Not to the public, just to one person, someone who reminds me of you 2 years ago." The student's name was Sora, a 19-year-old from Osaka who had lost $8,000 trying to follow YouTube strategies and revenge trading crypto. Quiet, disciplined, a little broken. Emiko agreed on one condition: no live trading, no quick gains, no strategy hopping, just the 4 lines. Sora agreed. And so, a new phase began.
The mentorship with Sora began on a rainy Sunday, as many turning points in Emiko's life somehow did. They met online over Zoom, cameras off. It was Emiko's rule. Trading is about what you see, not how you look. Sora's voice trembled during the first session. I just want to stop feeling like a loser." Emiko didn't respond with encouragement. She simply said, "Then stop chasing wins." What followed was 3 months of repetition so dull it would have sent any typical newbie trader sprinting back to YouTube indicators and moonshot predictions. Emiko didn't teach Sora how to make money, she taught him how to stop losing it. Day after day, they studied one chart, USD/JPY, one time frame, H1, same 4 lines, same simple journal. Date, entry, exit, emotion, rule followed or broken. By the second week, Sora began to understand that trading was 90% waiting. "No trade today," he'd message. "Good," she'd reply. By week 5, his demo account was break-even, a massive psychological win. By week 10, he had a single win, plus 2R. Sora messaged her that night, "I feel like I finally earned $1 the right way." Emiko replied with the only praise she ever gave, a single thumbs-up emoji. But the real change wasn't in Sora, it was in Emiko. For the first time since her husband's death, she found herself thinking about someone else's growth more than her own. And something softened in her. She began journaling longer, not just trade notes, but life reflections. In one entry dated August 2022, she wrote, "I used to think trading was war, but now I think it's more like being a gardener. You don't force things to grow. You prepare the soil, pull the weeds, and wait. That's all." Meanwhile, her accounts grew steadily. Her personal account crossed $50,000. The investor account hit $180,000. The venture firm increased her capital to $1.2 million. Still, she never changed her system. One chart, 4 lines, max 2 trades. and no one knew her name. But in September 2022, that changed, unintentionally. A Tokyo-based journalist working on a feature about women in finance reached out to Nakamura. He gave a single quote: "If discipline had a face, it would look like Emiko Sato, but good luck getting her to talk." The journalist was persistent, and after weeks of polite requests, Emiko agreed, under strict terms. No photographs, no trading performance data, no real-time interviews, only a written Q&A. She submitted her answers in a plain Word document, font size 12, double-spaced. The feature went viral in Japan's trading community, not because she promised riches, but because she didn't. One of her answers became a meme. The market is not your boss, it's not your enemy, it's not your friend. The market is weather. You do not argue with weather, you carry an umbrella. Suddenly, strangers began emailing her, hundreds, thanking her, begging to learn. She ignored all of them, except one, a woman named Hana, recently divorced, who had lost her job during the pandemic and was looking for a way to provide for her son. "Your story," Hana wrote, "made me feel like I wasn't stupid for trying." Emiko replied with a 2-sentence email: "Open a demo, 1 pair, 1 time frame. Email me again in 30 days, if you're still here." Meanwhile, Sora was now trading a live account, funded by his older brother, $1,000. He made just 4% in his first month, but it was the first time he didn't blow up an account. And that's when Emiko did something radical, at least for her. She created a new email alias, 4linesschool@protonmail.com. She didn't promote it, didn't post it. She just gave it to Hana and to Sora and to one other woman in Osaka who had been scammed by a fake Forex guru. 3 students, all women, all survivors of something. No website, no Discord, no fees. Just one rule: you must commit to boredom. If you want excitement, go play poker. Her daily life remained unchanged. Wake up at 5:30, stretch, make breakfast for the kids, review the charts, mark the 4 lines, wait. Sometimes she didn't trade for 3 days straight. When asked by a student how she dealt with FOMO, she responded, "You only miss things when you believe you're entitled to them." And in October 2022, she received her biggest test. Her investor pulled out. The man who had given her $50,000 2 years ago was now liquidating all personal assets due to family reasons. He asked for a full withdrawal. Emiko complied. She didn't panic. She didn't ask why. She simply closed the trades, transferred the money, and journaled the moment. Capital is rented. Skill is owned. It was that mindset, that utter detachment, that earned her the next call. From an unexpected place, a US-based trading fund. They had read the translated version of her Q&A and wanted to know if she'd be open to managing a $5 million portfolio under their risk management framework. Her response? 1 sentence. "Only if I can still use my 4 lines."
The offer from the US-based fund was more than just an opportunity. It was validation. Not the kind that comes with headlines or awards, but the quiet, unshakable confirmation that her discipline wasn't just a personal breakthrough. It was institutional grade. The fund's name was Horizon Trading Partners. They were a mid-sized proprietary firm based in Chicago, known for giving unconventional traders a shot, provided their systems were robust and their psychology bulletproof. They didn't care that Emiko had never published on TradingView. They didn't care that she had no social media. They cared that in 3 years, she had grown capital with 0 drawdowns over 10%. They offered her $5 million, a 20% profit share, and a 6-month trial period with a risk cap.
no more than 2% drawdown at any time. She took exactly 48 hours to respond. Accepted. Same system, same lines, no compromise. She started the trial in January 2023. Her setup remained unchanged. One screen, naked chart, USD JPY only, H1 time frame, 4 horizontal lines marked at Tokyo Open. The firms had one condition: weekly reports. So she submitted her first log at the end of week 1. Week 1. Trades taken 3, wins 2, losses 1, net plus 2.1%. Psychology, no deviations. Patience intact. Notes: no trade Monday. Tuesday was a trap day. Avoided. Happy. The fund's head of risk, a seasoned ex-Goldman quant, emailed her back. This is the most honest trading report I've read in 5 years. Keep going. She did. By week 6, her account was up 9.4%. By week 10, the CEO of Horizon flew to Tokyo and asked for a meeting. They met in a minimalist tea house near Omotesando. No suits, no laptops, just 2 cups of hojicha. The CEO, an American in his 50s, said, "Your results are exceptional, but I have one question. Why haven't you scaled this system? Add pairs, add traders." Emiko smiled gently. "I would rather be consistently right in one market than occasionally lucky in 5. He nodded, paused, and leaned in. "What's your end game, Emiko?" She looked out the window at the falling cherry blossoms and answered quietly, "To raise my children in peace, to die without ever selling a dream." The man didn't push further. He shook her hand and said, "We'd like to increase your allocation to $10 million. That's when Emiko felt something strange for the first time in years. Fear. Not of loss, but of expectation. Managing $10 million meant responsibility, oversight, potentially public attention. So she negotiated. She said, "I'll accept $10 million, but I keep my anonymity. I report monthly, not weekly, and I never attend meetings." The CEO grinned. "You're the first person to ask to do less for a promotion." Deal signed. By April 2023, Emiko Sato was managing more capital than most Japanese hedge funds. Yet nothing changed in her daily life. Same apartment, same tatami mat desk, same second-hand chair. She still walked her kids to school every morning. She still took Sundays off completely, no screens, no charts. The only indulgence she allowed herself? She bought her late husband's favorite espresso machine and installed it in her kitchen. It hissed and steamed every morning while the Tokyo skyline slowly brightened. Her account curve climbed steadily. No sharp spikes, no hero trades. Just a slow ascent that bored most people to death and made her rich. But Emiko never called herself rich. To her, wealth wasn't a number. It was not having to ask anyone for permission. Her students, though still few, had grown into a quiet network. She had 5 now, all women, all selected for one quality: emotional resilience. She turned down dozens more. One applicant, a man from Dubai who offered her $10,000 for a 1-hour Zoom, got a 5-word email reply: "I don't sell oxygen. Sorry." Meanwhile, the trading community speculated endlessly about the mysterious Tokyo widow. Was she real? A myth? A front for a bigger fund? One Reddit thread suggested she was actually a team of algo developers in Singapore. Someone even created a fake ex-Twitter account claiming to be her. It posted vague, spiritual-sounding trading advice like, "Flow with the market, not against it. Your soul knows." Emiko laughed when a student sent her the link. Anyone posting that kind of nonsense isn't trading size. She preferred silence, charts, stillness. She once told Sora, now a small funded trader himself, Most traders obsess over candles, but the secret is in the wicks. Wicks show pain. Then came the flash crash. August 2023. A rogue BOJ comment leaked minutes before market close. USD JPY dropped 240 pips in 10 minutes. Thousands of traders were wiped out. But Emiko? She was flat. No position. Why? Because price was far from her 4 lines. And her rule was simple. No lines, no trades. Her Horizon Risk dashboard showed a perfect 0 that day. She received an email from the fund's CEO that read, "You are not human." She replied, "No, I'm just not emotional." But inside, something had changed. Not fear, not greed, but awareness. She now knew she was being watched, respected, studied. People were dissecting her system, but no one could replicate it because what made it work wasn't the lines. It was her. Her discipline, her surrender to boredom, her willingness to walk away when most would chase. She called it the Holy Grail paradox in one private note. Everyone's looking for the perfect system, but the perfect system is the one you can follow. And most people can't even follow their own bedtime. By the end of 2023, her fund had grown to $14.2 million. She had received offers to write a book, do a documentary, even appear on Bloomberg. She declined all of them, except one, a podcast. But only under one condition. No questions about money, only questions about rules.
The podcast episode aired quietly. No dramatic trailer, no music, just a plain thumbnail. Discipline is a trading system. A conversation with Emiko Sato. The interviewer was calm, a former trader himself, and he knew better than to sensationalize. Still, the episode went viral in trading circles, not because of explosive sound bites, but because of how Emiko spoke. Measured, clear, not a single wasted word. Here's how the conversation began. Host: Emiko, thank you for agreeing to speak with us. Let's start here. Why trading? Emiko, because it doesn't care about your story, only your behavior. That line alone was quoted across forums, Telegram groups, and even reposted by major trading platforms. But Emiko didn't care. She didn't check views or comments. She didn't even listen to the full episode afterward. To her, it was simply a record, something her kids could one day listen to and understand why their mother spent so many years staring at lines on a screen. In the interview, Emiko revealed for the first time how she defines a good trade. She said, "A good trade is not the one that wins, it's the one you would take again, even if it lost." That line alone stunned many new traders, because it shattered the illusion that winning equaled skill. Instead, Emiko framed trading as decision hygiene, a process of making the same clean choice repeatedly regardless of the outcome. In the second half of the podcast, the host asked her directly, "Host, Emiko, you've managed millions, refused publicity, and maintained the same system for years. Why not teach full-time? Why not scale into education?" Emiko, because if I teach too many people, I'll start trading their expectations instead of price. It was a dagger of truth. Too many traders go public and get trapped performing for an audience. Emiko refused to be part of that circus. Instead, she spent 2024 doubling down on what she called line loyalty. Her core system, those 4 simple horizontal lines, remained untouched, but she began refining how she taught it to her 5 private students. Each student was required to do 3 things daily: screenshot the chart with their 4 lines, write a 100-word journal entry, no numbers, just emotions, and record a 30-second voice note, "Why I did not take a trade
today. That last exercise was Emiko's favorite because it taught restraint. Most traders only journal trades they take. Emiko flipped it. She believed journaling missed trades was more valuable. Why? Because it's in the trades you avoid that your true system reveals itself. By mid-2024, something unexpected happened. One of her students, May, a nurse from Osaka, turned a $1,000 prop account into $37,000 in 6 months. No overtrading, no upgrades, no community fanfare, just the 4 lines. When Emiko asked her how she felt about the result, May replied, "I finally understand. It's not the strategy, it's the person who can sit still inside it." That answer nearly made Emiko cry. She told her children about it over dinner, explaining in the simplest words she could. "Some people build houses. I build habits." Her children didn't fully understand, but they smiled because for once her mother looked visibly proud, not of the money, but of the transmission. Meanwhile, in Tokyo's trading underworld, Emiko's name was becoming a legend. There were rumors that hedge fund recruiters were trying to reverse engineer her system. One company in Singapore even released a course suspiciously titled 4-Zone Dominator, the secret system of Asia's silent trader. Emiko didn't sue, she didn't complain. She only posted one line in a private Slack group. "They can steal your map, but they can't steal how you read the terrain." Her students understood. Because Emiko never taught them what to do, she taught them what to see. One time a student asked her, "What do I do when price breaks the previous day's low, but volume is high and the dollar index is rising?" She responded with 2 words, "Do nothing." Confused, the student asked, "But why?" She paused and then said, "Because if you need 5 conditions to feel safe, your system is no longer simple. And if it's not simple, it will collapse under stress." She spoke like a samurai. Not aggressive, not flashy, just committed to clarity. And her results backed her up. By the end of 2024, her $10 million fund had returned 18.3% net with a max drawdown of just 4.1%. She was offered another raise in capital. She declined. She told Horizon, "I'd rather be lonely and accurate than popular and overwhelmed." Instead, she quietly onboarded one final student, a single father from Busan who had blown 3 accounts but showed incredible journal discipline. She didn't ask for money. She never did. All she asked was that he commit to 6 months without touching any new indicators. He accepted, and she mailed him, by hand, a single A4 printout with one line at the top. "Price respects memory more than momentum." Underneath were 4 lines drawn across a daily USD JPY chart. That was the entire system. That, and a note in tiny script at the bottom. "The market doesn't owe you a trade today or ever." Emiko believed every trader should carry that sentence like a stone in their pocket. A weight, a reminder. Because most traders don't lose from lack of skill. They lose because they believe they must always be doing something. And Emiko made a fortune by doing nothing almost every day.
By early 2025, Emiko Sato had become what traders call a ghost in the charts. No Instagram, no trading live streams, no motivational speeches, just consistent performance, documented only by monthly screenshots and ledger entries. Yet her influence was spreading like vapor. On Reddit threads titled "Minimalist Trading That Actually Works," her name kept popping up. But whenever someone tried to describe her strategy, it always came back to the same thing. She just draws 4 lines, and she waits. In an industry addicted to noise, Emiko's method was beginning to feel like heresy. The louder the influencers shouted, the quieter her circle grew. And those who adopted her way, those who truly lived by the 4 lines, began to notice something unexpected: peace. For the first time in their trading lives, they slept. They didn't obsessively check their phones at night. They didn't open trades out of boredom. They didn't try to predict NFP or CPI or ECB meetings. They just marked the lines, waited, acted, or didn't. And that stillness, it started bleeding into the rest of their lives. One of Emiko's students, an ex-military logistics officer, said it best: "I came for profit. I stayed for discipline. I was chasing freedom, but she handed me structure instead. And that's what actually gave me freedom." This was the paradox Emiko had discovered. Simplicity is not the opposite of complexity. It's the consequence of mastering it. Because in her early days, she had tried everything. Indicators, news events, oscillators, volume spikes, divergences, prop firm challenges, trading psychology books. She buried herself in it all. But like a woman digging through noise to find a song, Emiko had finally emerged with only 4 notes. 4 lines. And those lines weren't just technical levels. They were psychological anchors, boundaries that stopped her from wandering into chaos. She taught her students to treat them with reverence, like sacred stones in a temple. Before the trading session began, she asked each student to say out loud, "These lines are where I stop predicting. These lines are where I start observing." One student laughed the first time. Emiko removed him from the group the next day. Not because she was offended, but because, as she explained in a quiet voice, if you laugh at the ritual, you're not ready for the war. Because to Emiko, trading was war, but not against the market. It was a war against urgency, against the human impulse to act when silence is the better trade. She believed that most traders didn't need more strategies. They needed more respect for boredom. So she designed a ritual. Every Friday evening, she and her students would meet online, cameras off, mics muted. They would each upload a single image, their naked chart from that week, with the 4 lines drawn and any trades they took marked with a circle. No discussion, no feedback, no praise, just reflection. They called it line confession. Over time, Emiko noticed something magical. Her students stopped measuring success in dollars. They started measuring it in days of full discipline. They'd message her things like, 3 days, no violations, no early entries, no overtrading, no ego trades. And when one student broke down in tears after taking a reckless trade and wiping a week's gain, Emiko didn't scold him. She simply replied, "The chart doesn't punish you. It just reflects your condition." That line struck deep, because Emiko had come to believe that the chart was not a battlefield. It was a mirror. And most traders weren't fighting the market. They were fighting their own reflection. So, when her fund crossed $10 million AUM in April 2025, Emiko celebrated in a way she only could. She closed her charts for a month, took her kids to Okinawa, didn't place a single trade. When asked later how she could let go at such a pivotal moment, she replied, "The system does not require me, only my presence within its boundaries." And therein lay the truth behind her success. She hadn't built a strategy. She had built
behavioral architecture, a framework that could survive her emotions, her wins, her losses, her fatigue, even her absence. By the time she returned to the markets, one of her private students, the single father from Busan, had passed the FTMO challenge, moved out of his in-laws' home, and set up his own quiet office space. He sent her a message. "I only trade 2 levels a day now. My wife used to call trading gambling. Now she calls it gardening." Emiko smiled. She messaged back, "Good gardeners know when to plant. Great ones know when to wait." At this point, a Hong Kong-based institutional trading desk reached out to her with a proposal. A $20 million allocation, full autonomy, no restrictions, just monthly performance reports. Emiko declined. Her reason was simple. Scaling size is easy, scaling stillness is not. She wasn't chasing numbers anymore. She was chasing a state, a way of being. And as the world sped up, with more traders turning to AI bots, news scalping, real-time sentiment dashboards, Emiko just slowed down. Her system never changed, because she had discovered what every real trader eventually learns. You don't grow by adding things. You grow by subtracting what breaks your clarity. And in Emiko's world, clarity was worth more than capital.
By mid-2025, Emiko Sato had stopped measuring time in hours or days. Her life was no longer split into Mondays and Fridays, into Asian sessions or London Opens. Instead, she measured time by market reactions. Price approached the weekly high? That was a pause. Price rejected the previous day's low? That was a consideration. No reaction at all? That was silence. She didn't see herself as a trader anymore. She saw herself as a custodian of market moments, a curator of restraint. And as her capital grew, so did the invitations. A Singapore fintech conference offered her $50,000 to give a keynote on minimalist price action models in a data-driven era. She declined. A Japanese TV station wanted to film a documentary about her rags-to-riches journey. She declined. One famous trading influencer, whose YouTube thumbnails always featured Lamborghinis and red arrows, offered to collab and fly to Tokyo for content. She didn't even reply. Because Emiko had a rule: visibility is noise. Her children, now teenagers, knew not to mention her trading to their friends, not because it was a secret, but because she wanted them to grow up in a world where money didn't equal identity. She told them over breakfast, "Power is quiet. Anyone chatting about it is borrowing it." And so her trading remained invisible, just 4 lines on a screen, a digital monastery built inside a candlestick chart. But behind that quiet exterior, Emiko was conducting an experiment. She wanted to see how far discipline alone could scale. So in June 2025, she made a decision to onboard 10 carefully selected traders under her wing, not to teach them a system, but to rewire their relationship with the market. They weren't allowed to trade live for the first 90 days. Instead, every day, they were assigned only one task: observe price around the 4 lines and write a 300-word reflection about what they felt, not what they thought. It drove some of them insane. One quit after 2 weeks, frustrated that he wasn't being given a real strategy. Another admitted he cried after day 20, not because he was confused, but because for the first time he realized how noisy his mind had become. But those who stayed, by the end of 3 months, they had changed. Their language shifted. Instead of saying, "I think price will go up," they said, "Price is nearing a zone of prior rejection. I will wait."
Instead of saying, "I missed an entry," they said, "No trade was taken. My edge didn't show." Instead of chasing wins, they tracked violations. And when they were finally allowed to go live, each with $1,000 of their own money, something remarkable happened. In the first month, all 10 of them ended positive. Not dramatically. The highest return was 4.6%. The lowest was 0.7%. But none of them broke their rules. Not once. It was the most consistent performance Emiko had ever seen from new traders. They called themselves the line keepers, and they kept trading quietly in the background. No flashy Telegram groups, no promises of 6 figures, no mindset coaching. Just a Google Drive folder where they uploaded weekly chart reflections. Emiko read every single one. One entry stood out, from a 23-year-old student in Osaka. "Today I didn't trade, but I wanted to. I sat in front of the chart and felt the itch in my fingers. Then I remembered, price owes me nothing. I closed the chart. I made no money, but I kept my integrity." That night, Emiko cried. Not because she was proud, but because she saw the future of trading, and it wasn't louder. It was quieter. That same week, an investment fund from Switzerland approached her with a proposal, a $50 million fund under her name with a full research team, office space, and a luxury apartment in Zurich. She turned it down in 5 words. "I already live in peace." The truth is, Emiko didn't trade for money anymore. She traded because it gave her something few things in life do, a mirror. Every session was a reflection. Every reaction was a signal, not from the market, from herself. And when she looked at the younger traders she mentored, she didn't see analysts or future fund managers. She saw survivors. People who had walked through the same emotional wildfire she once did and emerged with hands steady, eyes patient, and egos subdued. She knew many of them would eventually outgrow her, and that was the point, because the 4 lines weren't meant to bind them. They were meant to guide them until they built their own architecture. One student, now trading a 100K account from Dubai, messaged her, "I've added a 5th line, the monthly high. I hope that's okay." Emiko smiled. "If it brings you clarity, it's always okay." Because Emiko had never wanted to build clones. She wanted to build thinkers. Quiet ones. Boring ones. Disciplined ones. People who didn't scream when they won, who didn't spiral when they lost. People who watched. And in a world where every chart was shouting for attention, watching had become a rare skill, almost a rebellion. Emiko Sato, the Tokyo widow who once cried at her kitchen table, had become the architect of a movement. A silent one. A precise one. And it was only just beginning.
A rainy Tokyo morning. The kind with thick clouds that muffled the city's noise. Emiko Sato sat alone at her kitchen table, sipping barley tea, watching price dance around the weekly high. She hadn't traded in 3 days. Price hadn't offered her anything clean. No decisive rejections, no textbook tests of structure. Just noise, false breaks, confusion. And that was fine. 3 years ago, she would have felt the panic, that gnawing voice telling her she needed to do something. But now, silence was just part of the rhythm. She checked the time, 8:07 a.m. Her daughter was already at school, her son was asleep, now on summer break, and the chart in front of her hadn't moved more than 6 pips in an hour, so she closed her laptop. Not because she was done with trading, but because nothing was being offered. That moment, quiet, unceremonious, uneventful, was the exact opposite of the fantasy most people have about successful traders. There was no euphoric win, no $1 million exit, no thunderclap. Just a woman, a chart,
and the discipline to walk away. This, she thought, was freedom. Emiko's net worth had surpassed $12 million. Her fund managed capital from 7 countries, but her daily life hadn't changed much. She still lived in the same apartment near Shibuya, she still ate soba noodles twice a week, and she still refused to check profit during the trade, only after it was closed and journaled. Because for Emiko, profit wasn't the proof of success, stillness was. That month, she wrote a private letter to her students, now numbering 18 across 5 countries. It wasn't published, just a PDF shared through the Line Keepers folder. Here's what it said. The market is a mirror. When I first started trading, I thought I was looking at the market. Now I understand the market was always looking at me. Every candle, every fake out, every whisper of movement was not a message from price, but a reflection of my emotional readiness. You cannot trick the chart, you cannot lie to your stop loss, and most importantly, you cannot outrun the parts of yourself you refuse to train. If your discipline is weak, the market will punish you. If your ego is loud, the market will humble you. If your need for excitement is stronger than your need for clarity, the market will show you what addiction costs. But if you show up quietly, if you watch patiently, and act only when the edge is undeniable, the market will open a door. It's not a door to riches, it's a door to yourself. And once you walk through it, nothing, not even losing days, can steal your peace. Emiko. That letter became something of a manifesto among her students. Some printed it and taped it next to their monitors, others memorized it. One trader in Manila even tattooed "The market is a mirror" on his forearm. But Emiko didn't need followers. She wanted fellow survivors. She often said, "I didn't survive this market to be worshipped. I survived it so someone else wouldn't have to bleed as much." Her rules never changed. Still the 4 lines, still the 2 trades a day max, still the 1 to 2 risk-reward minimum, still no indicators, still no prediction. And it worked, not because it was magic, but because it was enough. In a podcast interview, her first ever, she summarized her philosophy like this: "You will never control the market, but if you control how you react to it, that's enough. That's all you need. Everything else is ego." The interviewer asked, if you could tell your 39-year-old self one thing, right after your husband passed, what would it be? Emiko didn't blink. The pain will not kill you, but what you do after is what will define you. By 2026, Emiko had stepped back from day-to-day trading. She now traded just twice a week, not because she had to, but because she liked to stay sharp. The rest of her time spent walking in the park, reading samurai philosophy, helping her daughter prepare for university entrance exams, drinking tea, and answering the occasional message from one of her traders. ... Price is hovering between the week high and low. No reaction yet. Sitting on hands. To which she'd reply with a simple, "Okay." Nothing else needed to be said. Her legacy wasn't millions earned or a flashy reputation. It was a quiet rebellion against noise. A reminder that simplicity is not weakness, it's mastery. And as long as there were traders out there still fighting their emotions, still thinking more indicators would save them, still over-trading out of fear or boredom, Emiko's story would matter. Because every chart is a battlefield, but the real war, it's always internal. Thank you for listening to Forex Success Story. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment about your own trading journey. Your story could be the next voice we share, because every trader has a war story worth telling. See you in the next episode.